It's California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are joined by Karthick Ramakrishnan. He is a professor at UC Riverside, also part of UC Riverside's new School of Public Policy. Congratulations, opening fall 2014. Tell us about it.
It's exciting. It's the third School of Public Policy in the UC system, the other two being Berkeley and UCLA.
Not bad, good company.
Which are powerhouses, and we hope to be there in a few years. And we will focus on issues that are relevant for the Inland Empire and Southern California, but also have global consequences.
Right.
So things like sustainable development, things like transportation, air pollution, and things like immigration and demographic change. So those are some of the issues we'll be focusing on.
Let's talk about immigration. Sure. We have been so hyper-focused on immigration at the border. You know as well as anyone, we have seen close to 60,000 unaccompanied minors hit the border, our southern border, and it's just crushing to see. But what's interesting as well is that there are a lot of undocumented. They're not coming from south of our border, but are coming from the west. Is that right?
That's right.
The west.
From the west.
Yeah, the west of California.
Right. West of the Pacific, right.
Because they are Asian.
Right. One thing that I think it's important to, so first of all, it's important, so people who study immigration like I do know all these distinctions, but I think the general public, we just think of immigration as one thing, and we mostly think of immigration as coming from Mexico. First of all, the kids coming over the border, they're actually asylum seekers, which is different from undocumented immigrants.
It's mostly, as I understand it, in this flood, Honduran, Salvadoran, and Guatemalan.
That's right.
Which I have learned is the epicenter for some of the worst violence we'd ever seen.
That's right.
Honduras, I read, has the highest per capita murder rate in the world.
Yep. And the UN has had several reports saying that this is a humanitarian problem. But we think of that, about that as immigration. But the other thing that you talk about is absolutely true. So if you look at the undocumented population, there are about 1.5 million Asians who are undocumented in the United States. And just to put that number in perspective, what that means is 1 out of every 8 Asian immigrants that you'll see is undocumented.
And let's define Asian.
Yeah.
Asian includes Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Thai, Cambodian, Laotian, and
South Asian. So Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, all of those are included in that. And if you look at our, so one of the websites that I helped create is aapidata.com,
right.
And there you'll see statistics on immigration, undocumented as well as documented, high skills, et cetera. And we have some of these infographics that we created to help reframe the debate, or at least get people to look at the reality in different ways.
So who are these undocumented Asians? Are they students who overstayed visas? Are they visitors that overstayed visas? Have they come over on boats? Who are they?
So what we can say is that most likely they are visa overstayers, but this part of the problem is that we have not had as many studies on the Asian undocumented. Right? So we've had so much attention being paid to Latino undocumented that we're mostly guessing. Now, given how migration patterns work, it's most likely these are people who came here probably through airports on tourist visas or other types of temporary visas and overstayed, or even say temporary work visas and overstayed. But we don't know much beyond that in terms of what kind of occupations are they working in, what's their age profile. There's a lot that we still need to study about this group.
Interesting about this debate, this issue, is that, look, for better or for worse, America has a different relationship with Asian immigrants than it does with Latino immigrants.
Right.
It's not a good thing or a bad thing, it just is. Am I right?
Well, I mean, yes. So I and others have done public opinion research where, I mean, I would say some parts of it are not, I would not be proud of. Right?
Okay, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so basically the way the public reacts to talking about undocumented immigrants, their opinion on undocumented immigrants is different if you talk about Latino undocumented versus, say, Irish undocumented or Asian undocumented.
Why?
People are making those distinctions because of these racial stereotypes that they hold. In
that
terms of
Asians are bright,
that's right,
hardworking,
that's right,
tiger moms.
Right, right. And also that when it comes to, say, Irish undocumented immigrants, they're more likely to assimilate. Now, some of those might have grains of truth in them, but they're using these racial frames to think about immigration, which we were supposed to go beyond that as a country starting in 1965, where we said we're going to abolish national origins as the basis of our immigration policy.
Let's talk about the tiger moms.
Sure.
The tiger moms recently got very involved in a public policy debate in a way that I never saw coming. As you know, there had been a move in the California legislature earlier this year to tinker with Prop 209, which eliminated affirmative action, and specifically as it related to higher education. The Tiger Moms really became unglued on this.
Yeah, and Tiger Moms and dads, if we're going to go with that.
I'm being stereotypical.
Yeah, if we were going to go with that frame. But essentially what it was a very high level of interest, if you will, but a very intense level of mobilization among Chinese Americans, mostly Chinese immigrants. And it was happening in particular places. So in the San Gabriel Valley, east of Los Angeles, in Silicon Valley, south of San Francisco, and parts of Orange County and San Diego County. And these were fairly well-to-do suburbs. So these were upwardly mobile, middle class to upper middle class Asian Americans, Chinese Americans mostly, very concerned that the chances of their kids getting into Berkeley and UCLA is going to be negatively impacted by affirmative action.
If you look at the statistics as it relates to UC admissions generally, it's undeniable that Asian Americans are being admitted to the UC system at rates beyond their population base.
But right, and that's true. But it's also true that this was true even when affirmative action was in place. I mean, that's the interesting part about this this hand-wringing or just intense mobilization, is that it's not like if you introduce affirmative action, you would have gone back to a dramatic shrinking of the Asian student pool. And in fact, if that would have happened, it would have been tossed out by the US Supreme Court right away. Because it's just not, we can't do that kind of blunt kind of affirmative action that people were fearing.
What's interesting as well is that this move was spearheaded in significant part by Latino legislators as well as African American legislators. I want to talk about the Latino caucus though, because this was the first year whereby Latino admission to UC surpassed Anglo admission to UC.
Right.
That's a very significant step.
It is a significant development, but it all depends on whether you see this as a glass half full or half empty. So that is notable. But if you look at Latinos and the K through 12 population, or if you look at the graduating seniors, first of all, in the K through 12 population, a majority of them are Latinos, but only
public-private, period.
Right. And then if you look at their admittance into the UC, they're only about a quarter of the people in the UC system.
But that's way up.
It is up, and that's because of policies that the University of California has implemented that not only look at statewide averages, but also look at the high schools that you go to. So if you're at the top of your class in your high school, so if you happen to go to a high school that is predominantly Latino, chances are that you'll get Latinos from those schools.
The numbers as it relates to African Americans, though, they've been stubbornly low.
Right.
Around 4% admission to the UC system for probably a decade, where African American population is well over 10%.
Right.
So we saw a lot of push from African Americans to try to tinker with Prop 209.
Well, part of the interesting thing is that one missed opportunity here is we really should have been hearing more from UC chancellors and administrators in higher education.
Panic.
Right? And
they got panicked.
Well, they panicked, but they really should have said, why is it important for us to have a diverse population, right?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that.
Because if you only have one or two African, I can say this as a professor. So I teach at UC Riverside, which thankfully has a very diverse student body.
It is known for that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when I look out into my classrooms and I am talking about things relevant to California politics, I am talking to a student body that looks more like California.
But here's the question, and I think it's something to consider. Is there an advantage to having a rich black kid sitting next to you just because that black kid's skin is a different color?
So I think that's a more constructive way to have that debate, is to say that it can't just be about race, right? It's about life experience and disadvantage. And having Barack Obama's kids benefiting under an affirmative action program doesn't seem right. Right? It doesn't seem like you're really enhancing diversity. You might be if you want to have kids of powerful people in your school, but you're not getting the kind of diversity and people from disadvantaged backgrounds.
You need to come back. You need to come back. He's Karthick Ramakrishnan. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.